I found it wedged behind a stack of old textbooks, an unmarked VHS tape, dusty, warped slightly at the edges. I should have thrown it away. I should have known better. But something made me slide it into the old combo player anyway. The screen blinked, crackled, then settled into a grainy image of a high school auditorium. My name is Maya Ellison, and that video reminded me why I've spent most of my life trying to be seen by a family that never once looked in the right direction. First place in the Colorado State Science Fair goes to Maya Ellison. The voice echoed from a scratchy microphone. 16-year-old me appeared on screen, clutching a trifold board titled Revolutionary Cancer Detection Using Non-Invasive RNA Scans. I walked toward the stage, hands trembling with pride. But just as I stepped into the frame, the camera jerked sideways. "There's Chloe!" my mom's voice chirped off screen, breathless with excitement. The lens zoomed in on my younger sister, backstage, in full cheer uniform, practicing toe touches. "Look at her form, Hal. She's going to crush it tomorrow." And just like that, my one moment, became background noise. The video jumped again, this time to Chloe's cheerleading finals. The camera never wavered. Every flip, every megawatt smile, every cheer call, it was all there. When her team won second place, my parents screamed like it was the Olympics. "That's my girl!" Dad's voice cracked. "Our little star!" In the corner of the screen, barely visible for 2 seconds, sat a trophy. My trophy, forgotten on a cafeteria table right behind them. I paused the tape. My thumb hovered over the eject button, but I didn't press it. Instead, I stared at the static, trying to remember the last time I felt anything about that night other than numb. That moment had changed everything. Not because I wasn't good enough, but because it was the first time I knew they'd never notice, no matter how good I was. A vibration jolted me back. Text from Mom. Family dinner tonight. Important news about Chloe. Don't be late. Of course it was about Chloe. It was always about Chloe. I closed my laptop, unopened email still sitting there. An offer from Frontier Biosolutions, one of the top biotech firms on the West Coast. I hadn't dared read it. I already knew that if I told them at dinner, they'd just smile politely, then pivot the conversation back to Chloe's big day. When I stepped outside, Mr. Hal Bernstein was watering his geraniums like he did every afternoon. He took one look at my face and turned off the spout. "Found something you wish you hadn't?" he asked, eyes soft with the kind of clarity only old age brings. "Just some old home videos," I replied, forcing a smile. "Nothing important." He raised an eyebrow. "The ones where the camera always seemed to follow Chloe?" I stopped mid-step. "You remember that?" "Hard to forget," he muttered. "They filmed every cartwheel she did. Meanwhile, you were winning scholarships. Competitions. Real stuff. Never did seem right to me." For a second, his words hit harder than the video itself. Maybe because it was the first time anyone had actually acknowledged what I'd felt all these years. That I wasn't imagining it. That I hadn't been dramatic. That I really had been invisible. "I have to go," I said, holding up my keys. "Apparently Chloe has news." Mr. Bernstein gave a small nod. "Maybe it's time you gave them some news of your own." I looked back at the house, the memory of that science fair trophy burned into my chest like an old bruise. "Maybe it is," I said quietly, then got into my car and drove toward another dinner I wasn't invited to be the star of. The Ellison house hadn't changed much since I moved out 6 years ago. Same pristine lawn, same wreath on the front door no matter the season. As I stepped inside, the scent of lemon cleaner and roast chicken hit me like a wave of déjà vu. Mom stood in the dining room arranging roses in a vase. Pink and white, of course, to match Chloe's aesthetic. "Maya," she called without looking up. "Can you believe your sister's getting married?" I hadn't said a word yet. Before I could reply, the front door flew open and in swept Chloe, gleaming, glowing, effortlessly magnetic like always. She held out her left hand as if choreographed. I'm engaged, she shrieked. A massive diamond sparkled so brightly it nearly blinded me. Trailing behind her, with that familiar confident grin, was Ryan Caldwell, her boyfriend of 8 months. Former college baseball player, current luxury car salesman, and full-time charmer. His eyes landed on me with a practiced smile. We're thinking June, Chloe said, spinning slightly so her hair fanned out. A garden wedding, just like you always wanted, Mom. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a cloth napkin. Oh, Chloe, sweetheart, it'll be magical. I took a sip of wine, letting it sit on my tongue longer than necessary. All around me, the scene played out like an overproduced Hallmark movie. I was background again. Furniture, scenery. Then I set the glass down. Actually, I said, voice calm, I have some news too. Ryan pulled out his phone, distracted. Mom already had hers out, scrolling through venue options. Jake's family owns a place in Vermont, she said brightly. Gorgeous gardens, view of the mountains. Maya, you'll need to take time off for the whole month of June, probably. Maid of honor responsibilities. Dad clapped Ryan on the back. Welcome to the family, son. We always knew Chloe would land someone special. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was from Frontier Biosolutions. Second reminder. Please confirm by Friday, position, start date, June 3rd. I took a breath. About June, I said louder this time. I might not be available. For heads turned, momentarily puzzled. I'm waiting to hear back about a research position, I explained. It's in California, leading a team working on early cancer detection. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, honey, you're not still doing that lab stuff, are you? You're 28 now. Time to start settling down. Like your sister. It's not just lab stuff, I said, voice tightening. It's based on the concept I developed in high school. The science fair project, do you remember? Blank stares. No flicker of recognition. Not even a polite lie. Well, Chloe chirped, speaking of high school, guess who I ran into last week? Tommy Phillips from the football team. He's single now, Maya. Want me to set you up? My chair scraped loudly against the hardwood as I stood. I need some air, I muttered and headed toward the backyard. Out under the porch light, I finally opened the email. Congratulations, Maya. We would be honored to have you lead the team. Please confirm acceptance and start date by end of week. The door creaked behind me. I expected Mom, but it was Ryan. Rough night, he said, leaning against the railing. Shouldn't you be inside planning your perfect June wedding? He laughed, but it sounded different, flat forced. Can I be honest? He said, lighting a cigarette. His hands trembled slightly. I hate garden weddings. And Vermont. But what Chloe wants, Chloe gets, right? I glanced at his wrist. The expensive silver watch he bragged about buying last month was gone. In its place was a tan line. Everything okay, Ryan? He took a long drag. Sure. Great. Perfect. Just like this family's supposed to be. Before I could reply, Chloe's voice floated through the window. Ryan, babe, Mom wants to show you more venues. He flicked the cigarette into the yard, smile snapping back into place like a mask. Coming, sweetheart. As he disappeared inside, I stared at my phone screen. My thumb hovered over 2 words. I accept. I didn't hit send, not yet. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the email. We would be honored to have you lead our research team. It should have been the best news of my life. Instead, it felt like a secret I wasn't allowed to celebrate. Not here. Not with them. Because I already knew what would happen if I brought it up again. They'd smile, say something vague like, that's nice, dear, and then pivot back to wedding centerpieces and Chloe's bridal workout routine. I shut my laptop. A knock on the door startled me. Chloe. She stood in front of me in a cream sweater dress and oversized sunglasses, holding her overpriced designer purse like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her usual radiance was dimmed, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. "Coffee?" she asked, like nothing was wrong. We walked to Maple and Ash Cafe in silence. When we sat down, she didn't even pretend to look at the menu. "I need a favor," she blurted. "Just until the wedding." I raised an eyebrow. "Money?" She nodded, eyes not meeting mine. "Ryan's investments. They're just taking a little longer to pay out." "What investments?" She hesitated, then laughed nervously. "It doesn't matter. It's fine. Really. Just a temporary thing." I studied her. The purse she was holding wasn't her usual Saint Laurent. It was a plain canvas tote. Her nails were chipped. Her engagement ring twisted around her finger like she couldn't decide if it still fit. "How much?" I asked quietly. She named a figure. It would have drained everything I'd saved for the move to San Diego. My security, my future, my restart. "That's everything I have, Chloe." Her eyes welled. "But you're the successful one, the smart one. You always figure everything out." "Do I?" I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice calm, because from where I'm sitting, I'm just the invisible sister, the one who's supposed to clean up everybody else's mess. She blinked, stunned. Her bottom lip trembled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Jake! Ryan, he says if we don't pay them back." She cut herself off, clapping a hand over her mouth. But it was too late. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Tell your sister time's running out. Ryan knows the consequences." I showed her the message. Her face went pale. "Who are they?" I asked. She shook her head, grabbing her bag. "I shouldn't have come." "Forget I asked." "Chloe," but she was already walking away, head down, shoulders slumped. Something dropped from her tote as she rushed out the door. I reached down to pick it up. A crumpled receipt. Not from a store. A pawn shop ticket. For one designer watch. Ryan's watch. That night, I sat in my car outside my parents' house, watching Ryan's car pull into the driveway. He stumbled slightly as he got out, checking his phone with shaking hands. Through the front window, I saw my parents greeting him with wide smiles, warm hugs, while Chloe hovered behind them like a ghost. My phone buzzed again. "Need your decision about early start date. Position available immediately." I typed, "I'll take the immediate start," then deleted it. Instead, I opened my banking app and stared at the balance. Everything I'd worked for. Everything I'd built alone. It could save Chloe or sink me too. My finger hovered over the transfer button. Ryan's words echoed in my head. "What Chloe wants, Chloe gets." Not this time. This time, I was going to find out exactly what Ryan had done with my sister's money, and when I did, someone was finally going to see me coming. I followed Ryan for 3 days. He wasn't hard to track. He had the predictability of someone who thought no one would ever look twice. The third afternoon, just before dusk, I watched him pull into the parking lot of the Desert Pines Inn, a dingy motel just outside Boulder. The kind of place that smelled like mildew and desperation. I parked 2 rows over and stayed low in my seat. 10 minutes passed. Then a man stepped out of room 6. Thick neck, scar above his brow, the kind of presence that made your spine instinctively stiffen. Ryan approached him with a white envelope, his hands trembling as he passed it over. The man counted the contents, then shook his head. Even from my distance, I saw Ryan's face crumple. Another buzz on my phone. "Mom, this time, wedding prep. Chloe's dress fitting is tomorrow at 10. Don't be late like last time." I was about to respond when I heard shouting. "I'll get the rest." Ryan's voice cracked. "I just need more time." The man's response was too low to catch, but whatever he said made Ryan stumble back like he'd been punched. And that's when I noticed the second car. 2 spaces to my left. Tinted windows, engine still running. In the side mirror, I caught a glimpse of the driver. Aunt Karen. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Ryan. Her eyes narrowed, mouth tight. She lifted her phone, tapped quickly, then pulled out of the lot. My phone buzzed. My office. Now. At First Pioneer Bank, Karen didn't bother with pleasantries. She pulled me into her office, locked the door, and dropped a manila folder onto her desk. "Ryan's in debt," she said without hesitation. "Big debt. Loan sharks. The kind who don't send polite payment reminders." I opened the folder. Withdrawal slips, loan applications, bank statements, all of them with Chloe's name, but not her handwriting. "He forged her signature," I breathed. Karen nodded. "And he's been doing it for months. If he defaults, they won't just come after him. They'll come after Chloe. And your parents." "My parents." I blinked. "Co-signers," she said grimly, "on 2 of the biggest loans." Evelyn didn't even realize what she was signing. She thought it was a pre-wedding account transfer. My stomach turned. "They still don't know." Karen looked at me. "Chloe suspects. But your mother?" "Evelyn is too busy orchestrating floral arrangements to notice the house is on fire." Another buzz on my phone, this time from Frontier Biosolutions. "Position must be filled by end of week. Need your final decision." I stared at the message, then thought about Chloe's hollow eyes, her chipped nails, the pawn shop receipt. "I have to tell them," I whispered. Karen shook her head. "They won't believe you. Not without proof they can't ignore." I closed the folder. "Then I'll get it." "You realize what that means, Maya?" she asked softly. "Your job. Your future." "Some things matter more," I said, my voice low but certain, "even if they never see it that way." I stood, folder in hand, resolve solidifying with each step toward the door. The Ellison family was about to get their perfect wedding. But first, they were going to get the truth. 3 days later, I stood in the foyer of my new house. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, clean slate, just as Mom's SUV pulled into the driveway like a storm cloud. Behind her, Dad stepped out slowly, adjusting his collar. Chloe trailed behind them, quiet, unreadable. And Ryan looked too comfortable, like he belonged. Mom didn't wait for an invitation. She marched in, heels clicking on the hardwood. "Sweetheart," she began, already smoothing her skirt, "we need to discuss something important." "Nice place," Ryan added, glancing around like a realtor. "Real nice." I didn't sit. Dad stepped forward, clearing his throat. "What your mother means is, with Chloe and Ryan starting their life together, and with their current, temporary financial setback, we thought maybe you could help out," Mom finished brightly. "Let them live here, just until things stabilize. You know, family supporting family." I blinked. "You want me to give them my house?" "Not give," Ryan jumped in, smile wide. "We'd pay rent. Of course, once my investments pay off." My heart rate didn't spike. My voice didn't rise. I'd prepared for this. "What investments?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" I said, "What investments? The ones you're making under Chloe's name? Or the ones you forged loan documents for with my parents as co-signers? Or maybe the ones you pawned your watch to cover after your motel meeting?" The room dropped 10 degrees. "Maya," Mom gasped, "how dare you make such accusations?" But she didn't look at me. She looked at Chloe. And Chloe didn't say a word. She stood by the window, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the floor. "Ivy," I said gently, "show them your bank statements." "That's enough," Dad snapped. "We came here to help you, Maya. You're almost 30, living alone, working those long hours in that lab. This arrangement would benefit everyone." I walked to the entryway, picked up the folder from Aunt Karen. "Like how Ryan's arrangements have benefited everyone." Before I could open it, Ryan lunged, snatched it from my hands. "This is none of your business." "It became my business," I said coldly, "when you started destroying my sister's life." Mom laughed, but it sounded brittle. "They're getting married in Vermont next June. The most beautiful venue. There is no venue." I cut in. "Is there, Ryan?" Ryan's face went pale. Chloe flinched. You said you paid the deposit last week, she whispered. Baby, you said. I can explain, Ryan began. Explain what? I snapped. The loans? The forged signatures? The man at Desert Pines Inn. You've been following me, he hissed. Someone had to protect my sister, since all of you were too busy pretending everything was perfect. Maya Ellison, Mom's voice shook. You will apologize right now. No. The word came out clean, sharp, final. I'm done apologizing. For seeing the truth. For speaking it. Dad straightened, jaw tight. Then you leave us no choice. Either you help your sister by letting them live here, or what? I challenged. Or you're no longer part of this family. The silence afterward was deafening. I looked at each of them, Mom, clutching her pearls, Dad, red with shame, Ryan, frozen mid-smirk, and finally Chloe, still silent, still by the window, still hugging herself like she was trying to hold her insides together. You're right, I said softly. I'm not part of this family. I walked to the front door, because I haven't been for a long time. I opened it wide. Get out of my house. Mom looked ready to argue, but Chloe finally spoke. Maya, please. I met her eyes. When you're ready to face the truth, find me. Until then, I'm done pretending. They left. All of them. Ryan still held the folder. But I wasn't worried. Karen had copies. As their cars pulled away, I looked across the street and saw Mr. Bernstein on his porch, coffee mug in hand. He raised it in a silent salute. Sometimes standing alone is better than standing with people who want to watch you fall. 3 days after I kicked them out, Chloe showed up at my doorstep with a black eye and trembling hands. He's gone crazy, she whispered. The men he owes, they came to the house. I pulled her inside, just as a dark SUV rolled slowly past my front yard for the third time that day. Chloe flinched at the hum of the engine. Mom and Dad still won't believe me, she said, collapsing onto my couch. They think I'm being dramatic, that I provoked him. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Aunt Karen, Jake just cleared out your parents' accounts. All of them. Another message, seconds later. Karen again. Police are involved. It's bad. I showed Chloe the texts. She didn't cry. Something worse happened, she laughed. A dry, hollow sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. You know what Mom said when I told her about the loans. Her voice was eerily calm. She said I should be more understanding, that every husband has his struggles. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, 2 men in dark suits. Not cops. The posture was wrong. Too still. Too sure. One of them, the one from the motel, called out. Ms. Ellison, we need to speak with you about your brother-in-law's obligations. Chloe grabbed my wrist, fingers digging into my skin. I pulled her toward the back of the house, but headlights flared across my kitchen windows. They had the place surrounded. Another buzz. Mom, how dare you fill Chloe's head with lies? Jake says you're spreading rumors at the bank. We raised you better than this. Chloe's voice dropped to a whisper. There's something else. I turned to her. Jake, he used your name, too, on some of the loans. The room spun. I stumbled back a step, bracing myself against the wall. What? He found your old tax returns in Dad's office. Said you had the best credit score. The knocking turned to pounding. My phone lit up again. Bank alert. Multiple loan payments overdue. Account frozen. Credit alert triggered. Another text from Karen. Police are on their way. But your credit is destroyed. The back door rattled. One of the men peered through the window, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk. The other voice grew sharper. Don't make this difficult. I yanked Chloe toward the basement. There was a tiny window down there, barely big enough, but it led to the side yard. Glass shattered upstairs. Heavy footsteps pounded across my living room. You know what's funny? Chloe whispered as we crouched in the dark. I always thought you were the lucky one. So smart. So independent. I was jealous. We need to, but you were right, she continued, her voice breaking. They never saw you, just like they never really saw me. We were props, not daughters, just perfect reflections in their perfect picture. Footsteps on the basement stairs. A flashlight beam sliced through the dark. My phone buzzed. Dad, fix this. Whatever you've done to hurt Jake's reputation, fix it, or don't bother coming home again. The flashlight stopped on our faces. The man from the motel smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Ladies, he said softly, let's discuss your family's debt. I stood up slowly, pushing Chloe behind me. Outside, through the basement window, I saw Mr. Bernstein on his porch. Phone to his ear, eyes locked on my house. Then, faint in the distance, police sirens. The sirens grew louder. The flashlight beam wavered. The man from the motel took a step back, just one. I have proof, I said, voice low but steady. Every forged signature, every illegal loan, every threat. My aunt's got copies. Surveillance, dates, times. You try anything, and it all goes public. He didn't respond, but his eyes flicked to the window. Red and blue lights flashed in the distance. You're bluffing. Try me. The police burst in through the front, weapons raised. The men didn't resist. They were too smart for that. Within minutes, they were in cuffs hauled out through the backyard as Chloe and I stood at the basement stairs, breathless, blinking into the sudden brightness of law and order. The interview room at the station was small and cold. Across from me, Detective Rivera laid out the documents Karen had provided, loan applications, withdrawal slips, and surveillance photos from the Desert Pines Inn. Jake Turner, Ryan, is currently in custody, she said, scanning her notes. He was caught trying to cross into Canada using a false identity. I said nothing, but he claims he's not responsible. Says you orchestrated the whole thing. Forged the signatures. Managed the accounts. Before I could reply, a knock interrupted us. The door opened. Mom and Dad entered, flanked by a lawyer in a too expensive suit. This ends now, Dad snapped. Our daughter is not pressing charges. This is a private family matter. I looked at him, coldly, deliberately. Which daughter, Dad? The one with the black eye, or the one who tried to protect her? Mom stepped forward, makeup perfect, voice trembling. Maya, please, think about what this will do to our family's reputation. From the hallway, another voice cut in. I'll tell you what it did to mine. Chloe stepped inside. She held hospital discharge papers in one hand and a folder in the other. Her hair was tied back. No makeup, just the raw outline of someone who had stopped pretending. She walked to the table and laid down the papers. He forged my signature while I was sleeping, she said, steady but hoarse. Called it investing in our future. She pointed to her face, and when I questioned him, he gave me this. The room went silent. The lawyer cleared his throat. Perhaps we can discuss this privately. No, I said. No more privacy, Chloe added. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a flash drive. This contains audio from the night those men showed up. Ryan's full confession. Threats. The names of every loan officer he lied to. Mom sank into the nearest chair. But he was so charming, she whispered. Chloe's voice cracked. He destroyed my credit. Stole my identity. Then he came for Maya's. Dad opened his mouth, but I cut him off. And what exactly have I done, Dad? Refused to play the part? Worked too hard? Spoken too loud? He fumbled for something. Anything. But Aunt Karen appeared at the door before he could respond. You always did protect the illusion, Evelyn, she said, eyes locked on Mom. Even when we were kids. You buried everything that didn't fit the picture. Mom's face went white. Karen, don't. Don't what? Tell the truth. Karen's voice didn't rise, but it was sharp as glass. You covered for his gambling. You made me swear never to tell when he lost the house. Detective Rivera leaned forward. Given the evidence, Mr. Turner will be charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and abuse. The question is, will you finally stand behind your daughters? Or are appearances still more important? Silence. And then, I'll testify, Chloe said quietly, about everything. Dad stared at her like she was a stranger. You'll be disinherited. Good, I said, taking Chloe's hand. We never wanted your money, just your eyes. Mom didn't say anything at first. She just stood there, mascara smudging beneath her eyes, the perfect image finally cracking. Then, finally, she whispered, I didn't want to see. Her voice shook, because if I saw, I'd have to admit I failed. Karen stepped closer, her tone gentler now. You didn't fail by having imperfect daughters, Evelyn. You failed by demanding perfection in the first place. Detective Rivera cleared her throat and gathered the documents. We'll need formal statements from both of you, Ms. Ellison and Ms. Ellison. Chloe gave the smallest of smiles. It's Ms. Ellison again, she said, squeezing my hand. And we're ready. As our parents left with their lawyer, Mom paused at the door. Her voice was soft, almost childlike. Maya, that science project, the one about cancer detection, did you ever finish it? I met her eyes. Yes, it's the basis of my current research. She nodded. Slowly. I'd like to hear about it sometime, if you're willing. It wasn't an apology, but it wasn't denial either. It was something we'd never had before. 6 months later, I found her sitting on the steps of my front porch. A VHS tape rested in her lap, the one from that day, the day the camera turned away from me. I've been watching our old home videos, she said without looking up. Really watching them this time. She turned the tape over in her hands. You were brilliant, Maya, and we missed it, all of it. I sat beside her, leaving space between us. A respectful gap, the kind survivors need. Down the street, Aunt Karen's car pulled up. Chloe stepped out carrying a stack of folders and a bag of groceries. She'd been living with Karen, going to therapy, rebuilding piece by piece. The bruises had faded, but her walk, her posture was different now. Steady, purposeful. She's stronger than I ever was, Mom said softly. She's not stronger, I replied. She's free. We watched as Chloe crossed the street. Mom looked down. Your father and I, we haven't taken a photo together since it all happened. 30 years of holiday cards. And now we can't even look into a camera. Good, I said, then caught myself. I mean, not good, but honest. That's better. She smiled faintly. Honest is new for us. Chloe joined us on the steps and sat on my other side. No one speaks for a moment. Then Chloe said, Jake took a plea deal. 8 years plus restitution. Mom nodded. Your father's liquidating part of his retirement to help repay the loans. It's not much, but keep it, I said. Karen helped contest the fraudulent accounts. My credit's clearing. Mine too, Chloe added, though I think I'll keep using Ellison. I'm not ready to be a Turner again, if ever. Mom reached into her purse and handed us an envelope, yellowed, sealed with brittle tape. I found this in the attic, she said. It's from your grandmother. She wrote it the day before she passed. I unfolded it. Read aloud. I'm sorry I made you hide who you are. Sorry I taught you that appearances matter more than truth. Break the cycle. Love your children for who they are, not who you wish they'd be. Mom's voice was barely audible. I never showed that to Karen. I never lived by it. Maybe now you can. Across the street, Mr. Bernstein waved from his porch. Standing beside him was Owen, the wildlife photographer who'd just finished documenting urban foxes in our neighborhood. He raised his camera toward me and smiled. You know, Chloe said, watching him, perfect families don't exist. No, I agreed, but real ones might be better. Mom stood, brushing her hands on her jeans. No pearls, No blazer. No perfect hair. Just a woman trying to begin again. I should go, she said. Your dad, he's trying therapy. We nodded. That was enough. After she left, Chloe and I sat in silence. The tape still sat between us. What should we do with it? She asked. I looked at it and smiled. Keep it, as a reminder of what we survived.